The Witcher 3 is one of the most celebrated video games of all time. When it was released in the summer of 2015, it won tons of Game of the Year awards, and for me personally, it became one of my top 5 favorite video games of all time. But that was almost 7 years ago, and it recently got its next-gen update, so we knew it was going to look pretty. But my question is, how did the design and the mechanics hold up after all of these years? Well, let's find out. To start off with the easiest part, this game looks absolutely bonkers now. It's insanely beautiful, running at 4K 60 frames per second, which is to be expected from an upgrade from a last-gen game. But even the armor textures and character models have been upgraded, and you can specifically see this in the Witcher armor during conversations. Especially during those golden hours around dusk and dawn, I was caught off guard by just how immersed I get, just riding around the landscapes as rays of sun pierce through a cloudy morning, or seeing trees softly blow in the wind as I'm trotting through the woods tracking down a monster. I live for these moments that let me just be a Witcher. Let me paint a picture for you. You just got done with a brutal hunt against a fiend that required you to use your potions, apply your oils, and focus on your reflexes to win. You're riding back into a small town with its head as a trophy on your saddle as the pink sun-setting sky is overhead. You hear the soft Polish string-heavy music play as you hear children running around the village and people just going about their life. In these moments, you are Geralt of Rivia in the Northern Realms. This game still manages to create a world that feels living and just lets you exist in it, better than most games that come out today. This feeling is created throughout multiple environments, such as the busy crowded streets of Novigrad, or the beautiful rainy Norse and Irish-inspired Skellige Isles. All these locations have plenty of side quests and monster hunts that range from funny to spooky to depressing to lighthearted. I never got tired of going to a board looking for my next hunt, waiting to see what small adventure I could experience. This brings me to the next part, and in my opinion, what is the most important aspect of this game: the writing and quest design. And don't worry, this game is too special to spoil in my opinion, so I won't mention any specific story details, but if you've played this game, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now look, I'm not going to mince words here. This game still has the best writing and quest design out of any video game ever made in my opinion. And I understand that's a very bold statement, but it's honestly how I feel. You have the main story, which is revolved around finding Ciri, but the way that it organically weaves in and out of every other side story, like the Bloody Baron or the Gangs of Novigrad, are all paced out perfectly. It shuffles you around the map, letting you see every little special bit of love and care that the designers put into it, so you never feel like you're missing out on something. Now, I think one of the best things that a story can ever do is invoke emotion in you. And for me, this game invoked every emotion. Like I stated before, there are moments in this game that are spooky. There are moments that genuinely made me laugh. There are moments that are exciting that have these huge epic set-piece battles. But then, surprisingly, there are also these wonderful little moments of tenderness and romance between characters. This game quite literally has it all. And this is due to the way that the story has you doing similar things, but in completely different circumstances. And to be clear, what I'm talking about here is quest variety. Lots of quests have you going around investigating by using your Witcher vision and just interacting with objects and talking to people, and that's a valid criticism, I would say. But my only defense is that the context behind why you're doing these things are completely different a lot of times. One quest may have you hunting in the woods. Another quest has you tracking down a crazed serial killer in the big city. Another has you setting up a stage play, and then another has you investigating a bank heist. This variety keeps me interested in the story and the character dynamics because I love seeing how these things play out. And of course, I can't not talk about something that is a staple in the Witcher series, which is choices and consequences. Choices in RPGs is a very common mechanic, but I think The Witcher does it the best it's probably ever been done. The quality of the writing and the performances are so good that the choices never feel like these very intentional branching off points. An example I would give is BioWare, which they make games that I love, but you kind of always know exactly when you are making a very specific choice that's good or bad. The Witcher purposely operates in this gray area of non-color-coded responses that make all of your choices just feel organic. You have conversations that build relationships and outcomes based on a number of encounters, instead of one very specific story beat. In other RPGs, the choices I make often make me feel like I'm gating myself off from things, where The Witcher does it in a way that it just, again, feels organic, and it makes me think this is Geralt's story just naturally developing. Now, obviously, there are choices that make me think what if, but never in a way that made me think I should have chose option B instead of A. It made me think in a much more realistic way about how I viewed the entire situation overall. Very similar to real life. And while painting the world in your own colors is great, I can't not talk about the world created by the original author that CD Projekt Red is playing in. The Witcher has a ton of politics, with governments and cultures and organizations all clashing and forming alliances and operating around each other. I love all of these chess pieces, whether they be the Emperor of Nilfgaard, or King Radovid and the Redanians, the sorceresses and their lodge, or the deeply religious Order of the Flaming Rose with their witch hunters. It's a sandbox of complicated relationships that we get to navigate ourselves, and I always love seeing how every single person is constantly trying to achieve their own best interest in this interesting political spaghetti bowl. That's where part of the beauty comes from, having Geralt as the main character. I like when RPGs give me a pre-established character and lets me paint them how I choose. I think that just allows for much deeper character relationships, as shown by people in the world already knowing who Geralt is. This is also because there are so many books establishing Geralt, but I think it makes it feel more like a cohesive story when your protagonist has a more defined role in the world. This story is one of my favorites in all of video games because of how well it uses all of its characters, their relationships, and its setting to the perfect degree. Now you take that and you mix it in with the more fantastical elements of monsters and magic, and then you have this perfect mixture of real-world politics mixed with fantasy that is still one of my favorite fictional worlds to be in. And what's better, you can get even more great storytelling now with both the Hearts of Stone and the Blood and Wine expansions, which are both absolutely phenomenal. Blood and Wine specifically gives you a whole new map and enough content to feel like 20 to 30 hours, and it's basically its own game. But Hearts of Stone is no slouch either. They are both a must-play, and now you can play them at their best version just like the rest of the game. Oh, and I almost forgot about the best game within a game that's ever been created. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Gwent. Now, I, like many other people, fell down the Gwent rabbit hole quicker than I expected. And honestly, I thought with this being a replay, I wasn't going to dip into Gwent as much because, I've already conquered that hill. But oh boy, did Gwent consume me once again. I'm playing every chance I get, fiending for the next competitive game like I'm a damn addict. I love Gwent equally as much as I love the rest of The Witcher 3, and honestly, it's worth playing just to get those sweet cards. Now, to talk about some of the mechanical changes they've made, you can change different camera views when you're fighting, from walking around to riding your horse. You can pull the camera in to create more thrilling fights like I do, but I like to keep it out when I'm just running around the world so I don't have Geralt's big ass sword handles in the way. But then I like the camera tight again when I'm riding Roach to create a great little relaxing, picturesque moment as I explore. They've also added a quest and a couple of items in the game for the fans of the Netflix series that are surprisingly well done. They don't feel phoned in whatsoever, and the armor set's really set in the world nicely. But to be honest, the biggest mechanical change in my opinion are the quick casting abilities. It works the same way quick gadgets do in the Arkham series, letting me pull off spells in combat without having to slow down anything to switch between them. It's an awesome improvement that keeps you in the action, and it lets me have more fun fighting enemies. Now, I will admit the combat is one of the more, I guess you could say, static points of this game, and I think it isn't particularly noteworthy. A lot of your sword swings lack impact, which honestly sucks. But the way you can make the whole system actually work and shine is in the Witcher contracts by hunting different monsters. I recommend playing this game on hard because that's when it really benefits you to engage with your bestiary, to research which oils, spells, and potions are going to be most effective for your fight. It helps really immerse you in the whole Witcher fantasy that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. And sure, it's fun seeing Geralt pirouette around, effortlessly hacking up enemies like a butcher, but I wouldn't say that the combat is a high point. It accomplishes what it needs to by not working against you. To answer the question that I posed at the beginning of the video, yes, The Witcher 3 is still undoubtedly one of the best games ever created. If you are even remotely interested in this game, you've got to pick it up and try it right away, as you can now play the definitive version of it with all the DLC and added gameplay bits. But with that being said, what are your feelings on The Witcher 3? Do you love it as much as me, or can you confidently say that it's not for you? No matter how you feel, guys, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.